everyone, and welcome to episode 28 of the Fast and Fabulous podcast. I have with us today Martin Sher. Martin, I am so happy to meet you. Thank you for being on. I'm so ecstatic that you're here with us today and sharing your intermittent fasting story. When you reached out to me, I was super excited because I had just seen an email pop up on my phone about your episode with Jen Stevens, and I immediately knew that this guy must have a great story to tell, and I had to hear it. So welcome, Martin.
Well, thank you so much for that nice introduction. I can't tell you how excited I am to finally meet you. I listen to all the podcasts like this. They all end up with a happy ending, whether it's Jen's or yours or Graham's. There's a problem, and then all of a sudden it all gets solved and everybody's happy. So it's like a fairy tale for me.
Oh, well, I mean, that's so nice for you to say. And honestly, I'm just trying to pay it forward for the gift I was given. And I want other people to be able to, find that gift as well. And I know that's what you're probably after as well. And it's just so wonderful that we can share like this, because this is wonderful ways to spread the news of intermittent fasting throughout the globe, because it really is. It's going throughout the globe. So the thing I always love to start with is the magical question. And how and when did you first discover clean intermittent fasting?
Wow, that's a great question to start off with. It saves me going through my 71-year history and all my stuff, but it definitely is the highlight of my life. I lost 40 pounds on my own plan from eating less and exercising more, because that's all
Okay.
I knew. That's all I knew that there was in the world. So it took me about 10 years and I lost 40 pounds. And then I was looking to try to figure out, what am I going to do now that I've lost the weight? I kind of got down to where I wanted to be, and I was on vacation with my family in Port St. Joe, Florida, and me and my wife were in a little shop, and there was this book I was twirling around. There's like 20 books on this cylinder type bookshelf, and I came up with Fast, Feast, Repeat on that, and I'd never really heard about intermittent fasting before. So I looked at that and I said, this has got to be the answer for me. So I bought the book. I go back to our house on the beach, and I start reading it, and I read it in, I guess, 3 or 4 hours. I
Wow.
didn't really put it down. And as soon as I read it, I said, this is what I'm going to have to do. And I was like, it immediately hit me like a ton of rocks that this is terrific. I wish I had known about this 10 years when I had to develop my own plan for myself. So that's basically where I heard it. Just got it off a bookshelf, and here I am.
At a random bookstore I'm in Florida, so I know where Port St. Joe is. It was right near where I went to college. But that's so funny that you just walk into a bookstore one day and randomly found Jen's book, and here we are. So you started fasting when?
I started fasting in December 2020. It's been about 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And how
so
long did it take you to reach your goal? Because you lost what, like 50 pounds, right?
yeah, I didn't mean to, but I lost another 10 pounds on intermittent fasting. I was just trying to maintain my weight, and
Sure.
it worked out great, except my wife told me, she told me after 50 years, we're going to be married 50 years
Oh, wow,
this year.
congratulations.
Well, thank you. And she, one night, she told me, she said, I didn't know you had ribs. And so that's after I lost the 10 pounds. So I had to put about 5 more pounds back on.
That is so funny. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, what were you said that you had, before you had intermittent fasting and all the knowledge that came from Jin's book, because really it is the most comprehensive book about intermittent fasting, clean intermittent fasting, let's be clear. Before that, you had said you lost 40 pounds over the course of 10 years. And
Mhm.
by just eating less, exercising more, probably depriving yourself, am I going on the right track here?
Well, that's right. The first part. The second part is, I like numbers and I like to keep up with stuff. So I did the weighing. I did the
Mhm.
My Fitness Pal app.
Okay. Yeah.
and that type of thing. And my goal was I didn't care. I made an irrevocable commitment to lose weight, 10 years earlier. And I said, this is it. I've had enough. And so I tried to figure out exactly how much I needed to eat every day to stay the same. That's where I
Mhm,
started. I really started off with maintenance so I could learn what I needed to do.
mhm.
And then my goal was to lose weight slowly, change all my habits, and I tried to eat as much as I possibly could and still lose weight. And I knew what I needed to eat to maintain myself, so
Right.
I tried to do it real slow, which I did. It took me 10 years, but I didn't want to go hungry during it. So I kept it right up to the limit and I'd measure that every day. And it isn't a perfect science, your weight goes up and down in weird kinds of ways every day. But anyway, that's what I did. I tried to figure out what's the most I could eat. I exercised like a maniac. Well, for an older man, I walk about 6 miles a day
Wow,
there
that's great.
during that period, and I've done that all my life. I've always liked sports and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I just figured out how to think, how to eat, how not to eat, how to use tiny habits, and how to keep myself motivated. So I spent a lot of time on it because I figured when I when I lost my weight, I had two things I was going to do. I was going to buy myself a nice car. That was my goal.
Love
And the
it.
second thing I was going to do is to try to do everything I could for the rest of my life to help either one person or however many people lose weight. And that's kind of where I am. I'm retired and I'm in the mode of I listen to all the podcasts. I have a Facebook group. I try to coach a few people. And
Okay.
one thing I don't want to do is to work too hard because I'm
Right.
retired, but I spend all my time trying to work on intermittent fasting and helping people get thin and healthy.
I can completely resonate with all the things you're saying because it really, once you reach this freedom, it's hard not to want to shout it from the rooftops, and tell people along the way, and just try to get everyone, feeling more comfortable and healthy in their skin, because there's no price you can put on health. It's absolutely priceless. So, I mean, I would imagine, if I was to guess, all of those things you were doing in that 10 years before you discovered fasting, building up the healthy habits, I don't like to count calories or macros or anything like that. That's kind of very diet brain, but I imagine all those little things that you did built you to where you were able to succeed with intermittent fasting ultimately, because you said something that really resonated with me, which was that you made an irrevocable contract with yourself. And I absolutely love that. It tells when you tell yourself that I am committed and I am disciplined and I can do this. I mean, really, there's nothing you can't achieve. And so I applaud you for that. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. My father, who died when I was 17 years old, he was like, I had the greatest childhood. Everything was great, and this, that, and the other. But he told me, one thing all my life is you can do anything you make up your mind to do. Your father tells you that, he tries to beat it in your brain. I never believed it until I was about 50 years old. But anyway, so I knew when I stood on the scale and it weighed 234.6 and I'd gained about 40 pounds slowly over 40 years. I just gained about a pound a year on average, but I knew that at that moment you just kind of know, it didn't like I'm going to diet ever again. Whatever I had to do, I was going to lose that 40 pounds. I did not care how long it took me.
I mean, that is so cool. So how long did it take you to lose the 50 pounds when you started to fast?
Okay, so in 2007 is when I made my irrevocable commitment. Uh, I lost 40 pounds, about 5 years ago or
Hmm.
so. And then I stayed at that, still doing my fitness pal and weighing and whatever I needed to do. And then,
Hmm.
2.5 years ago, I found intermittent fasting and lost another 10 pounds.
Wow. That's incredible. So you've been maintaining for Oh, like 2 years.
No, well, really, I was down to the weight before did intermittent fasting that I was
Yeah.
happy with. I just happened to lose 10 more
You
pounds.
just
So I think
lost 10. Yeah. Okay. I
yeah,
see
so
what
I
you're
think I've
saying.
been doing it for about 5 or 6 years, and I read something early on, the lady's name, I believe, was Susan Pierce Thompson, who wrote a book called Bright Line Eating,
Hmm.
and she made the point that 1 in 1,000 people, not in her book, but in a newsletter I got from her, that 1 in 1,000 people who lose weight are able to stay at that weight for 10 or more years. And so I'm 6 years in, and I believe the 1 in 1,000 because if you think of all the people that go on diets and everybody goes on multiple diets and how many people actually succeed, it's got to be a very small percentage. I don't think it's 10% or 1%. I think
Yeah.
it's less than that.
Do you think that if you had not found intermittent fasting, you'd be able to stick with the weight that you had, achieved before you lost the extra 10 pounds?
I was worried to death about that because it took so much work for me to do that.
Mm,
I think I spent an hour between trying to train myself how to think and keeping up with all the graphs that I keep up with because I did
mhm.
all that. I didn't really want to do that the rest of my life. And so it was really like a godsend when I found that book. And that's why I was so sure I was going to do it. I took right to it. That's what I needed.
It's like it happened, it landed in your lap at the right time, the right place, the right time. I truly feel like it is all predestined to happen. Um, for each of us we all have a different story of how we found this beautiful gift that we're just love to share every single day. So let's talk about now we talked about exercise, you're still walking, I
Hmm.
assume. I always like to talk about movement because I really believe that it is very, very important to add movement to your habit, your routine every single day,
Hmm.
in the fasted state. But right now, would you say what you're eating in your window? Because there are a lot of people out there that say, oh, intermittent fasting, you could eat whatever you want when your window opens and from then on throughout when it closes. There's different views on this, but according to you and your experience, does it matter what you eat in your window?
It definitely does. I naturally choose whole, healthy, nutritious food more so than I ever did before because that's what you crave. But I still like sugar. Actually, I don't know if you know Netta Gorman or not,
Oh,
but
I love Netta. Her and I
yeah,
are great friends. Yes.
yeah. So I joined her thing. I don't think I have a really
Yeah.
bad problem with it because I kept it to 130 calories with non-sugar type stuff when I was losing all my weight. But I ate except for sugar. I think I did really good. I cut out all the junk food and
Yes.
sugar. It really isn't bad, but I'd have ice cream once or twice a week and this, that, and there. It's no big deal, but I just felt like I didn't need to be doing that. But anyway, I eat nutritious food. It's usually a big piece of protein, and I eat plenty, and I love vegetables more. And I've always liked them, but it's for some reason you put them on the grill and you put some oil
Oh,
in them, and
so good.
I could just live on that. I think, but I do
So
like
good.
protein a lot.
Yeah, me too. I'm very much a protein forward eater, so I can definitely resonate with that as well. I mean, I don't think I'm not into counting macros and I never will be, but protein is one of those things that I really try to enforce people to get enough of. Because if you're not, and you're fasting, it could lead to all kinds of, fatigue is just one of them. And then anemia, that's another thing that you want to be careful of. So what does your typical fasting schedule look like now that you're in the maintenance phase and you're, in autopilot?
Yes, to start off with, it took me 3 days to get to 20 hours.
Okay.
That's how I was so much into it, but I never really ate breakfast, and it
Okay.
wasn't that big deal, and I was highly motivated, and for the first, week or 2, I was starving to death and as you would expect,
Yeah.
but I ended up, long story short, I do 22-2 right now.
Okay.
I'd started off with about 20, It took me 2 or 3 days to get there, and then, I've been doing 22 too, and I sometimes will eat lunch, maybe 5 times, 10 times a year, but, I really kinda stick to it because that's what makes me feel good, and, I made a post on Jen's thing yesterday, and Delay Don't Deny, and it kinda hit me like a ton of bricks. I like I like how I feel when I'm fasting better than when I'm eating. And I was asking to see what the responses were, and I got a lot of positive responses that many people feel that way.
I'm sure you did because I've heard that before. I've heard it before, not just come out of my mouth, but come out of the mouth of my husband, come out of the mouth of people I coach, come out of the mouth of people in my Facebook group. It is something to really pay attention to, obviously, because rest and digest,
Mhm.
that is what we want to focus on, because we aren't designed to be eating all day long. And whatever protocol that 22-2 is where you're comfortable and where you maintain. And I'm sure not every day for you looks the same, and you have days where you don't make it to 22, or maybe you go over 22. But it's making it work for your life, and that's what works for you. And so that doesn't necessarily mean, those people listening out there who may be new to fasting, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the protocol for everyone. What works for you might not work for somebody else. I always love to stress that. So basically, when you start fasting, I like to tell people to ease into it, but you jumped right in, Martin. Like, you jumped right in, feet first, and it worked for you.
Yeah, and I wouldn't suggest anybody do what I did. I was just kinda ready for it. I kind of agree with what you're saying. Everybody should take it slowly because you wanna end up doing this for a lifestyle, not for a diet.
Yeah.
Please not a don't I think nobody should be doing this for a diet.
No.
That, it's a lifestyle and you should take it slowly and do what's comfortable for yourself, and, that's the only way to do it. There's no hurry. We're not going back to dieting and eat less and exercise more. So
Right.
just take your time and give yourself grace and do it at your own speed. I
I
agree
love
with you.
that. I love that. And it does work for some people to jump in, full throttle. I hear it a lot, especially from men. Men like to jump in full
Mhm.
feet. And I don't know if it's just a man thing or what. I eased in personally. I eased in very slowly. If I could go back, maybe I wouldn't do it as slowly, but it was a process that I had to learn, and everybody has a different learning process. But the process in and of itself, at the core, you have to trust it and you have to believe in it. And really, it's a huge mindset shift, wouldn't you say?
It's absolutely a mind shift, but it's a good mind shift. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
after you go back and you look at it after doing a while, you just thank the Lord that you did this.
It is. It's so, I mean, honestly, I feel so blessed to have discovered such a gift, because I spent most of my life obese in some way, shape, or form, and I was always worried about losing weight. And I know a lot of people listening are probably thinking, that sounds like me. Well, it doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to. Like, there's an answer, and it's free. It's clean intermittent fasting. Martin is here to give us his wonderful story, and you did this at retirement age. And I just think that's wonderful, because a lot of people think it might be too late, or their metabolism might be just shot, or something like that, and there's no hope. But, like, that's not true. That isn't
Yeah.
true at all.
No, it's not. I talked to a gentleman named Mariano who reached out to me, who's 82 years old, about a
Wow.
couple of weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
He started at like 78 or 79. He's been doing it for 3 years. He lost a bunch of weight. He feels like he's 40 years old. I mean, you never seen anybody so excited at 82. And that's kind of like my that's what I like. I like to find people who are my age or somewhere around 60, 70, or 80, and I like to try to help them figure out if there's something that they might do. Honestly, it's really hard to get
I
anybody
was
to.
gonna say, I feel like a lot of older people are a little bit closed-minded when it comes to this. I know my grandmother will not, she thinks I'm insane.
Hey,
She
old people are slow to change anything really,
well,
including
absolutely.
me, including me. Yeah.
Absolutely. It takes just a little bit of opening your mind, just a little bit of thinking outside of the box. So I would really encourage anyone listening and that thinks it might be too late, just open your mind a little bit to intermittent fasting, and you might be surprised of not just the weight loss benefits, but the total health benefits you get from this lifestyle is just incredible. You just said your friend that you were helping feels like he's 40 again and he's in his 80s. I mean, that's just pure magic.
And
It's
this guy
wonderful.
exercises. He told me he exercises 5 hours a day. He said
Oh my gosh.
300 minutes. He runs, he walks, he hikes, he does swimming, he does martial arts. I don't know. He was naming off
I
all this stuff that he
wow.
does.
I want to
You
talk to
can't
this
you
guy.
can't you can't make this stuff up, I don't think.
I mean, wow, that is something. 5 hours a day. That I mean, if you're gonna do something and have a habit, and that's a good habit to have, exercise is wonderful. Besides weight loss with intermittent fasting, Martin, have you seen a lot of off the scale victories? We call them non-scale victories in our community.
Yeah, there's so many of them. It's hard to remember. So maybe I'll give you my
Just give me
top.
your most important ones.
Okay,
Yeah.
I heard. I know you asked that question, so I got a tie. Can I say two of them?
You
A
can
tie for
say it.
first. A tie for first. One is I got off my blood pressure medication that I'd been on since I was 30 years old. I was
Wow.
taking 2 pills. I'd been doing it about 3 months, and I went to the doctor. And he said your blood pressure's too low. And so I said, "What?" And long story short, he took me off one blood pressure medication. Let's see how this does. And then he ended
Uh-huh.
up taking me off another one. And so I don't
Wow.
don't have any blood pressure issues right now. My blood pressure this morning was 105 over 70.
I mean, right there, that is just amazing. What is the other one that ties the blood pressure?
The other one is I feel like my GI tract has been totally rebuilt. I went through the low fat and the low carb years, and there was this thing, I don't know if it's before your time, I'm sure, but there was something called Alestra, and there were
I
these
remember Alestra.
chips that you ate, and
Yep.
I ate them before dinner every night, a whole big bag of those. I think they had 350 calories because I used to count calories back then, I always have,
Yeah.
but it totally ruined I did that for a couple of years, and my whole GI tract was a mess, and so, no, ever since I went intermittent fasting, I mean, it kinda got better after that, but it's just like it's brand new. It's crazy.
Isn't that fun? I mean, it's the resting and digesting every single day. You let your whole system rest for X amount of hours. And what that does over time to your GI tract is just miraculous. I mean, you're living proof. The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding with me and with so many others. It's absolutely incredible. And I remember Alestra. We used to call those poop chips because they
Absolutely.
they could just made you had to go like almost immediately. It was just the worst
Yeah.
chemical ever. And I don't know, they didn't last very long, thankfully, but God, please don't ever bring those back. The
Well,
food
my
industry.
family was very proud of me when I quit eating them. You know, my kids would have spend the night company and stuff when I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
younger and stuff, and it was best I quit eating eating
Yeah, I'm thankful you did too, because man, those chips were not good. I mean, if you're gonna eat chips, just eat regular chips. I don't think they make them anymore anyhow.
Thank goodness.
So we had touched on community a little bit. You mentioned you posted in Jin's group earlier. So how important do you feel community is to living this lifestyle successfully?
I think it's extremely important. I'd like to spend more time on it than I do, and I spend a good bit of time, but I'm just so interested to hear everybody's stories. And, I pretty much do this as a full-time job in my mind because I need something to do. But
Sure.
it's amazing. I've heard every question and this, that, and the other, but there's always something that new shows up or somebody asks a question or has some sort of concept that they're talking about or wondering about. I think it's wonderful, and you feel so empowered because, like you said, we're all so excited when we've had success at this. We
Mhm.
want to tell the world, we want to be around other people that are positive and happy and glad that they're doing this. Besides the information part, I
Mhm.
just I just I just think it's amazing, and I have a great time doing it. And I didn't think I'd ever hang around on social media and do that. I'm not very good at technology, but um, I would encourage everyone to do that and to get educated and read the books and do all that kind of stuff.
$100%.
Community and education is kind of where it's at if people really are serious about
Yeah.
picking up this lifestyle.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Community is everything, and actually, finding the right communities is key, because there are some communities out there, fasting communities, whether most of them are on Facebook, that just put out a lot of, I call it noise. You can call it misinformation, whatever you want to do.
Mhm, mhm.
But it is important to find not just any community, but the right community. And if you're in any Jen Stevens group, if you're in my group, I'm sure if you're in Martin's group, you're in the right place,
Yeah,
because we're sticking to clean, safe, intermittent fasting, and that's all we're doing. And there's really nothing more that you need to do, but then just clean fast every single day. People try to overcomplicate things. I see this a lot. I don't know if you do in your group. I see a lot of people overcomplicating things. And my motto is keep it simple. Keep it
yeah,
simple. And I mean, would you agree with that? Keep it
yeah.
simple and don't overthink it.
Yeah, I did it clean fast from the beginning because that's what it said to do, and it said you're gonna be hungry if you don't, and I said, "Duh," I don't wanna be hungry, and I believe that. Why wouldn't I believe that? But, it's just so important to do it right and to, just kinda keep it going.
Yeah, you keep planting those seeds, as I like to say, because you never know who you're going to touch. You never know whose life you're going to change. It's absolutely incredible how this has just become, from when I first started to fast, it was like we had heard of it a little bit. This was in the beginning of 2020. I heard of it kinda, but then, like, now it's everywhere, and they're coming out with a lot of products out there that are supposed to be safe when you're fasting. I've seen it, in grocery stores. I've seen it actual food. Like, this won't
Mhm.
break your fast if you eat this. Uh, I couldn't, like, that's just a pile of garbage. And if you ever, anyone listening, if you ever see anything that is food or flavored that claims not to break your fast, please run the other way, because the only thing safe in the clean fast is black coffee, water, or any unflavored sparkling water, green or black teas, of course. Um, so I always love to wrap up my conversations, because I just, every single time I have another guest, I learn something new. And that's what I love about what I do. And so if you had one thing to, like, if somebody's listening and they wanted to maybe start intermittent fasting, but they weren't sure, they're kind of on the fence, they have some people kind of giving them some doubt, what would you tell them to kind of change their mind?
I would I I would just tell them to keep listening, Michelle. I mean, just keep listening to this podcast, other podcasts, wherever you hear the stories. I love the stories. It's impossible to I mean, it's impossible not to do it. I don't know if that's two double negatives. If you listen to all these stories, I had somebody in my I coach a little group of men, and they told me he said, "Martin, you talk about this stuff, but it's all anecdotal." I said, "Well, I've listened to 400 or 500 podcasts of people that I've listened to every one of them, and all of them. I've listened to all of yours,
Oh,
and
thank you.
you can't make this stuff up.
No,
It's
these
just
are
listen,
real stories.
just listen to the stories. I mean, educate yourself on everything, the science, the obesity code. I read all that stuff, but I would say one thing: listen to the stories."
The stories, I love that. The stories, you cannot, like you said, you can't make this up. These are real people. These are real stories. This is real people getting their health back. And what a gift to keep giving and sharing. And I really just hope you keep doing what you're doing. How does somebody find you, Martin, if they're looking to, take their health back, especially if you're male and maybe just are you
Yeah.
looking for a mostly male group?
Well, I'm looking for everybody, but it's called permanent weight loss, and I think I sent you the
Okay.
information
Wonderful.
to
Wonderful.
uh,
I'll put it in the
right.
show notes.
Yeah, and I don't make money off this. I'm doing it just to help people. I'm not trying to sell anything or do anything or except just to find one person I can help. So,
Yeah.
and I'm also on Twitter also, and I believe I sent that
I'll put
information
all of,
to you.
yeah, anyone looking for Martin's community, I will put all of his contact info in the show notes for anyone to get a hold of you. Thank you so much for
Well,
coming on and taking the time out of your day.
I've been looking forward to this for a very long time, and it's so nice to meet you. And I want to compliment the listeners for being here, and they're on their journey if they're listening to you, all the people.
That you're so right. Anyone listening, whether you're taking your first step today, or maybe you're thinking about taking your first step, or you're 5 years in, thank you, because you're on your journey, and thank you for listening to Martin's, and Martin is going to keep sharing this beautiful gift across the world, with as many people as he can. Martin, thank you so much for being on and for listening, and I wish you a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank
Keep keep
you.
keep, keep doing the good work.
I will, you do as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.